source of our pain. This is unbelievable, unbelievable. That we are every second, and this is why we suffer. This is why, if Shula is an ordinary person, join the club, Shula, you're a human being. If you're not a bodhisattva, how come your teenage son makes you crazy? Is because your attachment, this primordial assumption that Shula should get what she wants every second. It sounds very brutal, but this is how we all are. This is attachment at a subtle level. It's a default assumption that frantically we've got to get only the nice things. That's why a person, for example, like Christina's point, a person who freaks out when they hear karma, because their attachment only wants to hear nice things. They don't want to hear a viewpoint that contradicts what they think. That's why we have a panic attack. This is the source of all our suffering. Whether you go to the shop and order ice cream, chocolate ice cream, but you get vanilla instead and you freak out, or whether the teenage son pressing all your buttons, or whether it's your mother, or whether it's your boyfriend who no longer loves you and you're panicking about it because your attachment is so hungry. The source of this fundamentally is this constant yearning to only get what I want every second. It only wants the nice things every second. This is how primordial it is. And then because of that, naturally, you get a person who rejects you. You get the teenage son who pushes you away. You get the wrong ice cream, what small thing or big thing. Then what is arising? Aversion, panic, anger, how dare, it is not fair, poor me. This is primordial. This is the nuts and bolts of this psychology. So it takes work. We need enormous courage. So what comes? So how would you be? So let's imagine, how would we be if Shula is, let's say, a bodhisattva? She might be. She's just been kind to us by asking questions. Let's say Shula is a bodhisattva. Let's say she's done the wisdom wing and she's on the bodhisattva path. How would she be in the face of her teenage son? How would she be in the face of her partner rejecting her? I'm not saying he is or she is. We're just discussing. Shula's an example. If she were, that means she'd have completely subdued her attachment. So how would you be when you've subdued attachment? You can't imagine how blissful you'd be. You'd be content. You'd be fulfilled. You'd have incredible self-confidence. You'd have incredible self-respect. You'd be genuinely happy. Please hear these words, people. You wouldn't be fragile. You wouldn't be needy. You wouldn't be sensitive. You wouldn't be hungry for someone's approval. You've got clarity. You've got wisdom. She sees the mind of her son. She knows exactly where he's coming from. She sees him coming. She's no longer hooked by all his nonsense. That means she can access her virtue and her wisdom and do and say exactly what is right for her son. And he will not be able to hook her. Isn't it how marvelous to be this way? So if it's your beloved partner who's no longer attached to you, that is the worst pain in the universe, because your attachment stops getting what it wants. You were relying before on this incredible attachment, and this is our deepest attachment, the attachment to be loved and seen and approved of. This is the major attachment. When the person stops doing this, this is the nightmare. We go mad. But if you have given up this attachment or even lessened it slightly, you will be more fulfilled, more content, and you will not be relying so desperately on that partner's approval of you. And if he has to go or he dies, it will be broken. You will be brokenhearted, but it will not take your heart away. You will be stable and reasonable. This is the point. This is what we have to work on. So the fundamental problem that we all have is this craven attachment. It makes us so fragile, so uncertain, so nervous. We never know what we want. We never know what we think, because we're always thinking about what the other people think, always trying to get other people's approval, always trying to say and do what we think other people will approve of. We're going crazy. So giving up attachment is a profound state of mind. And this is what the job is. And therefore less anger, less neurosis, less anxiety, less jealousy, less low self-esteem. This is the analysis. So all we can do is aim for this, What do you think of that answer? Whoever asked it. So if you like the idea of that, we have to learn the methods. It's true, isn't it? That's the point, This is the way Buddhism talks. But it's slowly. Be patient with yourself. Don't have false expectations. But you've got to know your own mind. You've got to learn to be your own therapist. This is not a joke. Then you're profound. Then you're marvelous and content. And then you can be wise and skillful in your ability to help the son, help the mother, help the ex-boyfriend, help the crazies, help the pedophiles, help whoever you want to help. The compassion wing is more advanced. As His Holiness says, compassion is not enough. You need the wisdom wing first. You need to go to have wisdom. And wisdom is simply meaning more clarity, more contentment, more fulfillment from getting rid of your attachment and rid of your anger and rid of your jealousy. Slowly, 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 one step at a time. That's the way to think about what practice is. Any other questions?
Yes, we have another question from Gina.
Gina, good darling. Say it, Gina.
She said, I have a boy of almost 1 year. What advice do you have for me to be fulfilled as a good mother? Thank you.
Exactly every word I just said before. That's exactly the answer for you. That is exactly the answer for you. Every word I just said. Exactly that is the answer. Work on your own mind, lessen your own attachment, lessen your own neediness, lessen your aversion, lessen your anxiety, lessen your fears, and grow your ability and skill to be compassionate and wise with your child. That's the answer for everybody. That's the answer, and there's no shortcut. Another question?
Yes, I have a question.
Good, darling.
We use in our Western world very much the word intuition. And I don't know exactly how Buddhism can explain intuition.
It's not complicated, Anne. So if we take the Vajrayana model of the mind, which, as we know, is described in the death process, we've got gross consciousness, which is the sensory consciousness, which actually is very limited. We think our senses are sensitive. No, they're not. The sensory consciousness is profoundly limited, like I said before. Can only see and experience the sensory objects themselves. So then we've got mental consciousness. So then mental consciousness, so we've got subtle consciousness. And so the gross consciousness is inextricably linked with this body. Then we've got subtle consciousness, and that's our thoughts and feelings and emotions. That's the more subtle level of who we are. In this body, we can access, but only a certain level of it. It's usually very gross. But as we progress spiritually, and eventually, as Lama Yeshe talks in his marvelous book called Mahamudra, which is about how to meditate and how to learn to realize emptiness, he said that, as we progress spiritually, they talk about in the text, you develop this incredible power to literally have clairvoyance. And this is like fantasy for us in our modern psychology, but this fits completely with the Buddhist teachings, means you've so subdued your grosser level in your spiritual development that you're accessing your ability to see the past, to see the future, and to see the minds of others. That's what clairvoyance is. Now, intuition is, as Lama puts it, is a mild version of clairvoyance. You've got enough awareness. If you're really full of self-centeredness, if you're really overwhelmed by your own attachment, your own needs, and you're really grossly involved in your own senses, a person can be in front of you suffering and you won't even notice because you're blind. But if you've got more access to your virtue, you're moving the gross level away and you become more aware of other people. That's intuition. It's just subtle. It's sort of the outer edges of your subtle consciousness, which is capable of being able to see more subtle things. So it's just the beginnings of that. Does that make sense, Anne?
Yes, thank you. But I have another question due to what you said.
Yeah.
Because sometimes is a mixture between your intuition and your attachment. You want something to happen in a certain way, and you can mix things. I mean, you can have a thought that's
delusion. Of course, but that's all the time. We have that all the time. We don't have a pure moment of intuition. We don't have a pure moment of love and compassion. It's always polluted by our attachment. That's how we can lie to ourselves. So you can have but intuition, if it's valid, intuition, it's a feeling of something wrong with your friend and she's next door and she must be suffering. That's a valid moment of it. But if it's so overwhelmed by attachment, it won't be intuition, it'll be a fantasy. So you've got to distinguish between them. That's the skill of being our own therapist. We have to distinguish what is true and what is not. But intuition in general, if it's valid, is a feeling of someone, your friend down the road, she's suffering. You have a dream about it because your dream mind is subtle mind, and that's more vivid. That can be true. So of course, if you have a feeling and then you add attachment to it, then you start writing a fantasy and then you've lost the plot. Of course, exactly. That's why we have to distinguish between valid facts and fiction in our mind. This is the crucial point. Are we communicating, Anne?
Yes, we are communicating, but I don't know how to make the difference. That's the, I mean, how do I
And
know?
you're asking, okay, sweetheart, come on. If you are sitting at the piano and you are studying Bach's music, it's very specific, and you're playing the piano and your fingers, you're watching your fingers, and at that moment you cannot decide whether you played the right note or the wrong note. That's the analogy. Would you agree that's what you're suggesting? Please hear the simple analogy. You can't tell whether what you're thinking is valid or not. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
So
yes.
good. You can't distinguish, did I play the right note or the wrong note? Can you see the analogy?
Yes, I think.
Okay, good. But it's a simple analogy. You can't distinguish between a wrong note and a right note. You can't distinguish between a wrong thought and a right thought. That's what you're asking me. Is that the point? Are we in agreement here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, this is my point, Anne, and this is always a surprise to us, but this is the whole point. What method would you use to check with confidence that you had the right thought or the right note or the wrong note? What would you do right that second? What would you do?
I look in the notes.
Thank you. You'd lift your eyes and you'd check the music. You'd check the theory. Well, guess what, Anne? You'd use Buddha's theory to see even theoretically what is a valid state of mind and what is an invalid one. That's why it's a starting point. We will never distinguish between facts and fictions in our mind if we don't have the theories clear first. You will never distinguish between a weed and a herb for 1,000 years until you've learned botany. That's the part that's missing for us in our culture, because we're so addicted to the mind being, well, that's just my business and I can work it out. And we've got to have theories about what the hell is in our mind. We don't have that in our culture. We don't have that. That's what Buddha's is. It's a precise presentation of valid and invalid states of mind. You have to learn botany first. You have to learn the music first. Then you can judge your experience based on the theory, until eventually you've practiced it to perfection. That's what Buddhist practice is, Anne.
Thank you.
Are we communicating?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. This is a crucial point. But it's like it's like a surprise to us. Because we just think it's cross your fingers and hope for your best. Or maybe I'm being intuitive, maybe I'm being loving. We don't even have proper theories about what the mind is. We can't, Freud's is not precise enough. Freud and all the psychology in the West is all about external events and kind of generalizations. It's not specific about the actual cognitive process precisely itself, second by second by second. That's the precision of Buddha's analysis of the mind. Are we communicating? Good. Thank you. What else, people? What else? Any other questions? It's 1:45. No, 1:15. We have 45 more minutes, you people. So you've got to bring out some questions, because that's the best time, when you start asking questions. Or I can talk more about karma if you like. I can give you the details about karma if you like. I might as well. Now that you've given me permission, I'm going to do it. Okay. All right. First of all, the law of karma has been around for several thousand years. It's not just made up by some hippies in the 60s. It's not, it's the Hindus first saw it, and how they saw it was with their mind at a more subtle level in single point of concentration. Because at the mind at a subtle level, and this is a fundamental point to comprehend in Buddhist psychology and therefore the previous views, that the mind has got these more subtle levels of cognition, which is including what we call clairvoyance, which is like fantasy to us in our culture. We don't posit clairvoyance in modern psychology or neuroscience, obviously not, because we're only dealing with the gross consciousness. But Buddhism's dealing with the subtle. So then you've got these subtle levels of mind. It's at that level of mind that they have observed the universe, observed the minds of others, so have come up with the law of karma. Just like Einstein used his intelligence at a grosser level, obviously, to observe the laws of the universe. So he came up with his findings about E equals mc squared or whatever. That's how any science is. Well, that's the Buddha also. He's come up with his observation, direct observation, with his mind about the minds of sentient beings, that it's driven. We're all driven by this law of karma. It's a natural law. It's not made up by Buddha. He's not a creator. That's a hilarious idea. It's the same as botany. A botanist doesn't create botany. They don't make botany happen. They've observed it and articulated it. They can't own the copyright on it. That's a joke. That's what natural law means. So that's the Buddha's view. So this law, how does it run? Well, it's based upon this fundamental view, which also is the result of observation, that consciousnesses, there are trillions upon trillions upon trillions of consciousnesses, of sentient beings, of minds, trillions of them. The word in Tibetan for sentient being is mind possessor. Mind possessor. There are trillions. Humans are one category, animals are another. Clearly there are trillions of animals if you compare with humans, but that's still only a small percentage. There are other levels of beings as well as far as the Buddha is concerned. Trillions of them, all experiencing every millisecond, each millisecond of every sentient being necessarily at each moment is experiencing the fruits of their past actions. His Holiness calls it self-creation. Big surprise to us. So now our actions, every millisecond, you're sowing seeds in the mind. So then every millisecond you do an action, a karma, with either your mind your mind, your body and your speech and your mind, or just the mind. Every millisecond. No seeds go astray. It is a natural law. So every one of those seeds, unless you pull those seeds out, they are going to program your mind. They're going to grow, and eventually they will ripen in the future. And they ripen in 4 ways. The first way that our past actions ripen in the present is in the type of rebirth we get. Now, Buddha asserts a whole range of types of sentient beings, realms of existence. In our case, like I mentioned earlier, to Shula, I think, it's like we won the lottery. The billions of consciousnesses are all hovering around who recently passed away, who are dying to get into that one egg and sperm, and we got in. It's due to enormous virtue, lots of past non-killing karma we must have created. And all our seeds, I kind of just joke here, and we've got all these different seeds in our different bank vaults. No seed goes astray. No action we do goes astray. Everything is programmed in our mind. And it's a natural law. No one's running it. It's not punishment. It's not reward. It's a natural law. So in our case, the first way our past actions ripened at the time of our past death, and they describe it in great detail in the literature, especially the Vajrayana literature. At the time before we stopped breathing, one of our virtuous karmic seeds of non-killing, probably, as Lama Zopa says, practiced in the framework of living in a spiritual path, of living in vows of non-harming, that karmic seed was triggered before we even stopped breathing. And that's not more than a few weeks before our consciousness eventually found its way to our present mother's human womb, or in a fallopian tube, or wherever it met the sperm from the daddy. Okay, that's the old-fashioned way of conceiving, isn't it? Not like the Petri dish. So, that seed was triggered. Already before we even stopped breathing in our past life, we were programmed to go to our present mother's human womb. First point. Second way our karma ripens, another bank vault, is all the tendencies, and this is a crucial point for the Buddha, all of our tendencies, all of our personality traits, all the things we are good at or not good at. You've got a tendency to be good at music, a tendency to be good at football, a tendency to be good at killing, a tendency to be good at love and kindness and patience. Look at our personality, And this is a massively important point here. The seeds for all of these tendencies are from our own habits, and they are triggered at the time we stop breathing in the previous life before we get anywhere near our mother and father. Our tendencies do not come from our mother and father. They might share them. But my mother, who was a musician, she had a tendency to be good at music because she brought it with her from having practiced it before. I had a tendency to be good at music because I brought it with me from having practiced it before. And then I conveniently got born to that mummy who then taught me how to play music. So the second way our karma ripens, and they call this intentions or tendencies, similar to the cause. It's a bunch of habits, basically. The third way your karma ripens, and this bank vault at the time of your past death, all the seeds from all your past actions that now play out in this life as experiences similar to the cause. which is basically the way we're seen and treated by others. All of these, everyone you meet in this life, from the starting with your mummy, everybody you've ever met in this life, you think about this, up until now, you can divide them into two categories. Those who've been nice to you, kind to you, loving to you, give you things, help you, support you, and those who've been mean to you and horrible to you and sack you and leave you and cheat you and lie to you, or worse. So we've got a bunch of friends and we have a bunch of enemies. The strangers, which is 99% of the universe, they don't do anything to us. Leave them alone. So we have friends and we have enemies. We have people who are kind to us. We have animals who are kind to us. We have animals who eat us. We have friends who are people who are kind, who are mean, who rape us, who kill us, whatever. We've got intense karmic history with all those sentient beings, and none of it is random. If it's a natural law, it is impossible for it to be random. This is beyond shocking to us, you know. The fourth way our karma ripens from the past is even the way the physical world impacts upon us. This is really much more subtle, but it's all described in the literature. It's all explained, you know. So the first one is called the fully ripened result, your human rebirth in our case. The next one is called your tendencies, or tendencies similar to the cause, your habits basically. The third one is all your experiences at the hands of others, mostly similar to the cause. And the fourth is even called environmental karma. So use one example of one action. Killing, non-killing, a strong intentional non-killing karmic seed, in our case, gave us the human body. It's called the fully ripened result. Second, in this life, if we're fortunate, we might be born with or eventually nourish a tendency to not kill. But look at the human world. This is the tragedy. Most humans kill something. So we've got a human body due to one bank vault of non-killing, but another bank vault of non-killing is ripening as a tendency from killing, that we're born with a tendency to kill. Most humans kill something. Most of our religions say it's okay to kill. I was taught as a Catholic that God made creatures for our benefit, you know. Most people kill insects. Most religions say it's okay to kill some beings. So killing is a really powerful habit in the human mind. Look at it, it's very tragic. It's from past killing. But some people have a tendency not to kill. I always use the two examples. A friend of mine, her little boy, when he was 3, she's a Buddhist, and he's 3 years old, and she's taking the lice out of his head, and he's crying with compassion for the lice. She hadn't had time to teach him this. So we can deduce he had a strong tendency to be compassionate. And he's 40-something now, and he's never killed a living being. So we can deduce that he must have lived in vows of non-killing, because now he's got a natural tendency to not kill. He was crying with compassion for the lice in his head. Mummy, mummy, leave them alone. It's their home. Don't hurt them. She didn't teach him this. Equally, another little boy that a woman told me about, her little boy, when he first met fishing. He's a nice boy. He had good tendencies. He had a human birth, but he had a tendency to kill from having killed in the past. He meets fishing at the age of 5 and he falls in love with fishing, and he spends the rest of his life killing because he had a tendency to kill. This is the tragedy. The third way your karma ripens, let's say non-killing, would be that you won't get killed and you won't die young. Well, every one of us so far has got that one. We've still got non-killing karma in our petrol tank of an experience similar to the cause of past non-killing. Now look at all the people who die young. That's due to their past killing. I had an abortion when I was 23. That sentient being, out of the billions of consciousnesses all hovering to get into my womb when I was in bed with that boy, when I was a hippie in London in 1968, not trying to be too graphic, but think it through, that consciousness, he or she, I don't know, must have won the lottery due to their past non-killing and their very strong karma with me, strong history with me. They came running like a magnet and came to the egg and sperm in my fallopian tube. That second I knew, oh my God, I'm pregnant, I said to myself. And I thought that next second I'm going to have an abortion. And I did, I had an abortion. So the karma of that person to get a human body, they got a human body. One track of karma. The fully ripened result, they got the human body. But they had the third karma called experience similar to the cause of their own past killing, that they came to my womb, and because they must have killed me in the past, immediately had the thought, I'm going to kill them. I didn't think that. It's too brutal. I was going to have an abortion. That's the way karma works. There was a strong history with me and that sentient being, just like I'm saying to Shula and her boy, a strong history with that sentient being. I didn't think of it like that then, of course not. And the second I knew they were in my womb, I didn't think of it this way. I immediately decided I was going to have an abortion. And I did. I had an abortion. So there's karma. That person got the human womb due to non-killing, but then she had the karma, or he had the karma at the age of 12 weeks in the fetus in the womb to die young. I mean, I'm sure if you did analysis, if you did numbers, if you did a survey, I feel you'd have more human beings who get the human womb, but who die as either a miscarriage or an abortion before they even get born than those who are born. I wouldn't be surprised. That's the karma of sentient beings. He created the karma to die young due to their own past killing. And that's why with something like abortion, I talk about it very openly, we often have women have a terrible guilt and shame and twisted inside, but it's a karmic, there's in the same way with Shula and her teenage boy, there's a dynamic history there playing out. He and she are in this game together. Well, me and this fetus were in this thing together. And one of the main, the cooperative cause for me to want to have an abortion is that the karma of that baby to be aborted. The main cause for me to want to kill them is I had a tendency to kill. I've never done it since. I didn't kill other creatures either. It was just that particular human being I had the karma with to kill. That's how things work. So the result, the third type of karma that ripens as a result of non-killing, in your third petrol tank, and we have got it right now, so you should be so joyful. Don't think you're alive because you're healthy. Don't think you're alive because you're happy. Don't think you're mainly alive because you're young. They're all part of it, but the main cause of why we're not dead yet is we've still got non-killing karma in our petrol tank, and it's called an experience similar to the cause. That's how come we haven't died of COVID-19 yet, because we've still got non-killing karma. But it'll ripen eventually and we'll die, won't it? Of course. So don't take it for granted. Don't have a hubris. Don't be arrogant. Oh, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm fortunate. I'm lucky. No such thing as luck, It's karma. The fourth way non-killing karma ripens in our life, and again, look at our lives, is called environmental karma. And the environmental karmic result of non-killing is that you don't get sick much. You're strong and healthy and got good well-being and good physical health. And the food and the water nourish you, even if it's crummy food and kills other people. It's nourishing you. That's the result, the environmental result of non-killing. How fortunate we are. But look at the world now. Look at COVID-19, So some people are dying of it. That's the experience similar to the cause of past killing. But the environmental result, it seems to me, of past killing, the whole world is experiencing it. From that perspective, the human beings who we can't even touch other human beings now in case we die. So that's the other human beings, even if they're not sick, but the ones who are sick, we can't even touch each other. It's sort of like you can't eat peanuts, you could die, So the physical world even, and human beings are part of that physical world, our environment. So the karmic result of past killing is that, this COVID-19 is pervading the universe and affecting us, It's very fascinating. So then every action we do can have any or all of these results, and it's a natural law. No one runs it. There's no punisher, there's no rewarder, it's a natural law. This really, really, really takes time to hear. I mean, listen to Flavia's point. We all have that feeling. It's either God who punishes or rewards us, or we have the universe putting obstacles in our way. It's always something out there. There's no such thing as something out there doing it it's like that's a conspiracy theory. It's just absurd. It's karma. And as Lama Zopa says, everything that we experience is our own karmic appearance. This is beginning to understand emptiness. It's dependent arising. It's quite subtle, but it's a very powerful view. And when you know it for yourself and you want to live according to it, if you want a garden, you can't just believe in botany. That's absurd. You've got to know botany. You can't just believe in karma. That's superstitious. You've got to know the laws, and it's all there in the literature. Detailed, extensive over centuries, you know, coming from the direct experience of the holy beings who have observed it to be true. So don't just swallow it whole. Don't just believe it. Think it through. Be logical. Be grown up. If you want to. No one says you have to. So what is the consequence for you experientially by using the law of karma? Well, have a look how we think now. It's have a look how we think now. If you're a materialist, you have a philosophical materialism, you think nobody knows why we're like this. Nobody knows why things happen. We say it. We say we don't know yet. We think mummy and daddy created us. We think they are the reason we are who we are. We even have to open up the brains of psychopaths to try and see what it is in the brain. What was the cause of being this psychopath, you know? You won't find it in the body. It's the karma of that person coming into this world in exactly the same way. If you look in the brain of that little... I look on YouTube and see all these amazing little children play unbelievable music. There's this little Russian boy. He's been since he's like 3. Beyond genius, you know. He's now 9. He's unbelievable. Completely just perfected in music. You're not going to find that in his brain. He brought it with him. So the psychopaths brought their stuff with them, and the genius musicians brought it with them. We bring it with us. We are the creator. Even this view alone is so primordial, it's so amazing, because it makes you grown up. You stop blaming others. You stop feeling like a victim. You stop feeling paranoid and angry, because you know you are the cause of your own reality. When I first heard the teachings from the lamas in the 1970s, I was like 31, you know. I didn't have a clue what Lama Zopa was saying half the time, all these complicated, weird, arcane ideas. But when I heard the word karma, that resonated. That was the piece I've been missing in my life. For me, that's one of the major things of being a Buddhist that underpins all your other practice, that you are the result. All your goodness, all your nonsense is the result of your own past practice. You are your own creator. I find this amazing. So confident making, so courageous. So it cuts ego, it cuts fear, it cuts anger, it cuts self-pity. It cuts all that. It's profound. Don't think it isn't, you know, but you've got to think it through. You can't just blindly believe it. That's useless. Completely useless. It's completely ignorant just to believe something. It's superstition, in fact. So I'd like you to ask me some questions about karma now, if you'd like to. Of course, this takes time, you know. It takes time to think this stuff through. But it's all there in the literature. It's up to us. And to be accurate about it. Got to be precise. You can't just make up what you think botany is. You can't just make up what you think gravity is. You can't just make up what you think math is. The same here. Got to be rigorous and clear and look at the text and and analyze and debate it and think about it, you know, and meditate on it every day. That's what knowledge means. Not just made up rubbish, you know. Any questions, people? Nothing. You're speechless.
Dear Robina, please tell us about pulling out the bad seeds we planted.
Good. Okay, let's talk about purification. So the very first level of practice, like if you want to take it, you've got the analogy, a wisdom wing and the compassion wing. That's a way of framing all the path. Then you can divide the wisdom wing into 2 sections. And you know, as you know, if you've studied this Lam Rim, you've heard that there's the lower scope of teachings, the middle scope and the great scope. Well, you know, and also I like to call lower scope junior school. It's kind of a concept we get. Then you've got high school. That's the wisdom wing. And that's the nuts and bolts of karma and the mind, which is what we've been exclusively talking about today. We haven't even gone into the compassion wing yet, which is the compassion wing, and that's university. Not to mention Vajrayana, which is postgraduate. So junior school level, which is where we're talking about karma. The very first level of practice, as Lama Zopa says, entry level, junior school, grade 1, this second, given that everything we think and do and say programs our mind, given that actions driven by a delusion anger, fear, depression, anxiety, attachment, will ripen as my future suffering. And given that every action that's motivated by love and compassion and kindness and wisdom will cause my future happiness, and given that I don't want suffering and do want happiness, then logically it follows my very first practice is stop creating future suffering. And what is that? Stop harming others. It's very simple logic, but we have to think it through. Again, if it's Christian, Jesus says don't kill. Don't just believe him, ask him why. What's the logic? Because it's God's law. God is the boss. If you want to have faith in God, this is a perfect reason. Perfect. It's God's will. This is a perfect way to live your life. But it just is not Buddha's, that's all. The Buddha says, as I'm just saying, don't kill Rabina, because precious one, dearest Rabina, most kind Rabina, you don't want future suffering, so don't program your mind with killing. It's for your sake, darling. We don't like hearing this in our culture. We think that sounds selfish, but we don't understand if we don't get this point first. You've got to have self-respect. Just like if you go to the doctor, your nutritionist, and she says, don't eat sugar. You say, why not? She doesn't say, because I say so, and if you eat sugar, I'll punish you with diabetes. We will laugh at that. Why does she tell you? Not just, she doesn't say, oh, so you can be a better person so you can help others. You can be, eventually. That's the compassion wing, but that's not enough. You've got to first know that eating sugar will harm you. And you've got to have the self-respect that you're sick of suffering. That's the view of karma, but we don't hear it like that in our culture. We hear it as punitive and heavy, and it's just awful how we hear it. It's just awful. It's self-respect. When you know that your words and your thoughts and your actions will pollute you if they're negative, it's the action of a mad person. That shows, that's the basis. They say the basis of the compassion of the bodhisattvas for us is that we don't realize cause and effect, that we don't realize that we are the producers of our suffering and the producers of our happiness. That's the main reason they have unbelievable compassion for us. So this is a profound first step. So you stop killing, stop stealing, stop. These are the heaviest actions. Why? Because they harm others. But the main logic behind why this is junior school entry-level grade 1 practice is because you do not want future suffering. Of course, we can't believe it initially. It's quite subtle. No one's got clairvoyance. You can't see this is true. But you've got to take it as your working hypothesis. You study it and think about it, and you decide. You will use that as the basis for judging your own life, you know. So then the next level you have to do, given that our minds go back and back and back and back, Buddha would say, and given that we've sown millions of seeds in our mind, and they haven't yet ripened as suffering, so we've got to put atomic bombs under them before they ripen to prevent them from ripening as my suffering, and that's called purification. So first, stop creating more future suffering, and second, purify previous seeds before they ripen as suffering. It's practical based on this view, you know. So let's look at purification. Well, first though, the first one, the very first level of when we listen to Buddha's teachings, he exhorts us to refrain from there's a list of 10 things. The first 7, the first 3 are the body, don't kill, don't take the ungiven, as the Tibetans put it, stealing, and don't misuse your, speaking it out, don't misuse your body based on sexual attachment. Don't rape, don't harm, don't cheat on other partners, etc. You know. So it lists 3 simple things of the body, which are the heaviest negative actions because they harm others. But these, therefore, are the ones that will mostly harm us because they're the heaviest ones. And because they're driven by attachment or anger. The next 4, this is for us humans, us clever humans with our clever speech, you know. We don't think speech even matters. We think I can say what I like. We don't have any sense that our words are powerful, you know. So at least 4 things of the speech to refrain from. Again, these are actions of the speech that harm others. Don't say words that aren't true. Don't lie to others. Don't abuse others, with rough language. Don't just kind of blur, blur, blur about nothing, just boring people, And don't say bad things about people behind their backs. That's one of our favourites. About people at work, about the family, about your sister, about the next door neighbour. We love to talk about people's qualities behind their backs. These all karmically have their own results, and they cause suffering. Right now, they harm others, but they will produce seeds in our mind that will produce future suffering. And it's all listed in the literature. So at least these 7 attempt to refrain from, motivated by your wish not to have future suffering. Of course, based on compassion as well, but it's first got to be compassion for yourself. The last 3 of these 10 are just the beginnings of Buddha helping us begin to subdue our mind, because our mind is the basis of these actions we do, And that's the 3, at least controlling the grosser levels of the 3 poisons. At least refrain from really intense craving, because that causes so much pain for your mind. At least refrain from intense kind of really raging anger that even wants other people to suffer. This is so shocking. Malice, at least calm that down, and at least refrain from the heaviest level of the root delusion, this primordial kind of ignorance. At least refrain from really stubborn, fundamentalist, narrow-minded, fixed black and white. I'm this, he's this, she's good, he's bad. You can see all the extreme political and religious views around the world. That's fundamentalism. That's this very rigid narrow-mindedness. And we can see it in our own lives. No, I'm right and you're wrong. That's this fundamentalism. At least calm that down. This is the 10 non-virtues. At least try and attempt to refrain from those non-virtues, That's the first level of practice. Then when you commit yourself and you decide you want to take refuge as a Buddhist, you've studied the teachings, you like the Buddha, and you want to commit, you would take refuge, and then you would also take the 5 laypersons' vows, which is from those 10. And a vow is a more potent, more powerful thing. Lama Zopa says that you can't really get ahead of the game. Just being a nice person isn't enough. Vows are a very powerful decision you make. For the rest of my life, I will never kill, I will never steal, I will never lie, etc. like that. 5, killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, I cheat on your partner, and also there's a 5th one called no intoxicants. You don't have to take all those 5, you can take less, But a vow is said to be very much more powerful. The Buddha says even that a vow, when you do it formally in front of somebody in a ceremony, a person like a teacher, it's a subtle physical energy that is visible to the really most advanced spiritual practitioners. There's something, and Lama Zopa says vows are so powerful. And this is now how we get into how we create karma. And I'm eventually going to get to purify, but we've got 15 minutes left, so I better hurry. You see, the crucial component in when you do an action, like say non-killing, there have to be 4 things in place when you do that action for it to become a complete karma, which drops a karmic seed into your main bank vault, which eventually will ripen as getting a human body. There's 4 things in place there. One is the object, let's say the mouse in your kitchen. 2, a living being. 2, your mind involved in it. There's more than this, but this is keeping it simple. There's 2 main things there. It has to be the intention. I will not kill that mouse. I must be careful and not harm the mouse. That's the bare bones volition. I will. Then the crucial piece is your motivation. Obviously, it's compassion. They come together, intention and motivation. That is what determines the character of that action you do. Your mind has to be involved. The 3rd is you do the action. The 4th is the mouse is alive and you release it, and that's it. That's a complete, roughly speaking, a complete action of non-killing. Now, you can have the same with an ant. There can be an ant on your kitchen sink and you don't even see it. And you avoid it, but without even noticing. So you didn't, in fact, kill an ant, but there was no intention to not kill, and there was no compassion. So therefore, 0 karma. So you have to have your mind involved when you do an action, both negative and positive. That's what qualifies it as a karmic seed. And the motivation is what determines whether it's positive or negative. It's all quite precise, So now if you have, so in other words, just to get another human rebirth, the Buddhist teachings say, we need bucket loads of delicious, intentional, non-killing karmic seeds in our main bank vault at the time of our death. But like in my house here in Santa Fe, I meet a few ants. That's about it. I've never met a rat, a mouse, a cockroach, so I never have to think I will not kill, because I don't meet the being. But I'm not creating any virtue unless I have a vow. If I have a vow in my mind stream, as Lama Zopa says, you are ticking over virtuous karmic seeds and putting atomic bombs under those tendencies to kill 24 hours a day. So you need to live in vows. That's when we create so much powerful virtue. The teachings say this. We've got to think about this, obviously. So just being a nice person is not enough. You've got to have the mind involved. You've got to do it in the framework of living in vows. It gives enormous power. So you have that way of living. And now the next thing you do, you've got to, at the end of the day, Lama Zopa says we're insane not to do this practice every day. It's called purification. Given that your mind goes back for countless lives, given that every millisecond you think and do and say something, you're dropping seeds into your bank vault, you want to purify them before they ripen as your suffering, dear. Of course you do. You want to put atomic bombs under them. That's purification. So that's another set of 4 things, always 4 things. There are 4 things in place for the purification process. And you can see it's a psychological process. I think of it as a practice at the end of the day where you're being kind to yourself. You're becoming a grown-up. It's psychology, basically. The 4 R's. The first is I have to acknowledge the things that I've said and done that have hurt others, which have hurt me. I've got to say them. If I live in denial, no, I didn't have an abortion, no, I didn't kill that ant, then you're living in la-la land. You've got to acknowledge I did kill the ant, and I did kick the boyfriend, and I was mean to the dog, and I did steal that pen. I mean, whatever you might have done. You've got to own it. And then what's your attitude? This is the crucial point. Normally we just go, oh, I'm a bad person. I shouldn't have done that. That's called anger, and that is useless, okay? What we do need is this kindness to ourselves. It's like an acknowledgement. If you've just eaten sugar, which you know will ripen as come a future, just as conventional level, as diabetes, you can't live in denial. Oh, no, I didn't eat sugar. Or you don't say, well, it's someone else's fault. They put sugar in my dinner. You've got to own responsibility. You took the sugar, baby. You better do something about it. That's what regret is, the first step. It's not guilt. It's not, I'm a bad person. We've got to speak it out. It's kindness to myself. I did do this and I did do that. And then you say, I don't want the future result. I don't want the future suffering. So what am I going to do about it? Whom can I turn to? Where's my doctor? That's the analogy the Lamas use. The second one is reliance. We visualize the Buddha. We've got a whole practice that all the Tibetan Lamas love. It's called this particular practice, including these 4 steps. You do it as a meditation at the end of the day. So you visualize the Buddha above your head. I'm sure you've done this practice in the past. Someone will guide you in the practice. It's really good to do. And you visualize the Buddha, and you kind of the thought is this is what reliance. You're delighted you've got a doctor. Buddha's not your creator. If I'm a Catholic, I must turn to Jesus, I must turn to God, and I must get God to forgive me. This is a really crucial difference. You're not asking Buddha to forgive you. Buddha would. He's a nice person. But it's not the point. You don't go to your doctor and ask her to forgive you for eating sugar, and then by her forgiving you, she stops you getting diabetes. We would laugh at that. Same here for the Buddha. You've got to do the work. You rely upon the doctor, but you take the medicine. So here we rely upon the Buddha, but I take the medicine. So in this second step, you also have compassion. The first one's like compassion for yourself. I don't want future suffering. I'm sick of suffering. So I regret whatever I've done with my body, with my speech, and with my mind since beginningless time. This is the first one, regret, because I don't want future suffering. It's kindness to yourself. Now, whom can I turn to? So you rely upon the Buddha. You visualize Buddha above your head or whatever in this case. Second part, you now have compassion for those you've harmed. That baby I aborted, the ants I've killed, the boyfriends I've cheated on, whatever, and all the beginningless lifetimes that I've harmed sentient beings with my body and speech. Of course, regretting first, and now I have compassion, second step. I must purify for their sake. Third one, the remedy. So in this context, we do a particular visualization of the mantra, so recite the mantra, visualize the Buddha. And this is very powerful because it's your mind. The Buddha's not doing the job. You are doing the job. You are imagining purifying. You are reciting this mantra. You are wanting to purify. As Lama Yeshe says, we create negativity with our mind, so we purify it by creating positivity with our mind. Our mind is what does the job. We just use the Buddha, that's all. The fourth one, resolve. You make a decision to change. This is purification. And then the Lama Yeshe says you go to bed with a happy mind, you know. So powerful. If you do this, you've got a perfect practice, and you can guarantee you're going to subdue your body, subdue your speech, subdue your mind, and then you start to work on your mind as well. You go to high school. This is junior school. Now you go to high school, and now because you're subduing your body and speech and purifying your karma and refraining from negativity, now you have the luxury of doing the actual job of being a Buddhist, unpacking and unraveling your mind, but based, like I said to Anne, by studying Buddhist model of the mind. So you now have a basis for knowing your own mind. That's when the real work starts. This is the wisdom wing. And if you succeed at this to some degree, you become a blissful, more steady, more reasonable, more content, happy person. No question. But of course, others are also affected. As Lama Zopa says, all the rats and cockroaches will have a party because you leave them in peace. But you are the beneficiary of this level of practice. Now you go to the compassion wing. You continue working on your mind, baby, but now the others are the beneficiary. That's it. Time to go. Any questions? No questions?
Sabina,
Yes, darling.
I have a question.
Good, Aline. Go. Ask me.
Yeah. It's about purification. Does it make a difference how am I visualizing? If I'm visualizing, for example, when I have to see my father, my mother, the friends, and the Buddha above the head, if it's the first persona, if I'm seeing as...
I'm not clear what you're saying, Aline. Can you please ask me again the question?
When I'm doing purification, sometimes it's easier for me to see myself as in a third point of view. Do you understand? I'm seeing myself...
No, I don't see. What are you telling me? So can you understand the purpose of visualizing the Buddha? What would be the purpose? What's the purpose?
Well, isn't it to focus on the nectar of the Buddha coming to you and
It's
purifying?
just it's you using your creative imagination, imagining the Buddha there and imagining wanting to purify and then saying the mantra. That's the medicine. So what are you suggesting you'd rather do instead for the medicine, for the remedy? What would you like to do?
I'm not suggesting anything.
Well, what are you suggesting then?
I was just wondering if it makes a difference because it's
What
hard
makes a difference to what, sweetheart?
Okay, I don't think it makes a difference. I think I get what you're trying to say.
So start again. Ask the question. What do you think? What do you want to do instead of that?
I don't want to do anything instead.
Well, what are you asking me then? I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
The question was, when I'm visualizing...
The Buddha above your crown. That's what you're visualizing.
I see myself and the Buddha.
Where do you see yourself? Where are you visualizing yourself?
From a third point of view.
Where? You said you didn't want to do something different, but in fact you do, and I'm not complaining. So you want to visualize the Buddha above your crown, and then you want to visualize another version of you next to the Buddha.
Yes.
So why do you want to do that, darling? How does that help you? I'm not complaining. I'm just asking.
It's because I think it's easier sometimes to visualize the third
I don't understand your point. Why? You're sitting there visualizing. Aren't you enough with one of you? Why do you want two of you? I don't get the point. I don't get the point. So explain it to me. Psychologically, what is the benefit of you visualizing yourself above your own head next to the Buddha? What is the function of you sitting there next to the Buddha? I'm not criticizing. I'm asking. What is the benefit of that?
I don't think there's a benefit.
Well, why do you do it if there's no benefit?
Because sometimes I cannot visualize myself.
You don't need to visualize yourself. You are sitting there in your own body. That is enough for you. I don't get your point, precious.
It's just a matter of sometimes visualizations are hard to
What
grasp.
visualization is hard? Which particular part of this visualization is hard?
When you visualize, when you imagine yourself in that perspective. Sometimes
what do you mean imagine yourself? Who is asking you to imagine yourself? This is where we're really confused, Aline. What do you mean? Who is in this meditation? You are sitting there on your cushion. Maybe your eyes are closed, and you're using your creative imagination, and you're visualizing the Buddha above your crown, and you're visualizing nectar coming from the Buddha, and you're visualizing it entering your crown, and you are thinking, how marvelous, I'm purifying, and you say the mantra. So which piece of that is difficult for you, And what do you want to do extra?
The visualization, when you see yourself, that's the
Who
difference.
says you have to see yourself? What are you
Okay.
talking about? You are. Who is asking you to see yourself?
Well, I thought that I have to see, that I have to have a visual. I think I've
Of
been
yourself?
guided-
No, complete mistake. So now we understand the reason. No, you are already, be content with who you are sitting in your own body, okay? You're visualizing the Buddha.
Okay, that's all I need to
That's
know.
enough, darling. Now we're clear finally. You've got to persevere with these things, okay? Even though I
Thank you.
sound like a bully, but I'm not being. Clarity is important. Thank you, Aline. Any
Thank
other
you,
questions, people?
Um,
Yes,
I do
Flavio.
have
What is your question, Flavio?
related to what was talked earlier, which is this. It is difficult for me to visualize this. Sometimes the nectar is
Sure.
very difficult
Of course. Okay.
to push it to the body.
Exactly. Listen, Flavio, also to Aline, having a really vivid ability to visualize the Buddha and this happening is quite sophisticated. So you just have to think it. That's all. Think it. If you've ever been in love with anybody, Flavio, you will see you've got brilliant visualization, perfect concentration. So we're using the same capacity, but here to imagine purifying our mind. So we do our best. The first thing is to have the sincerity of wanting it. That's the part that counts. You with me? Be content with that.
Thank
What else,
you.
people? Anything else? More questions? I mean, I'm happy to ask more questions. It's 3 hours, I know that, but this is a very intense topic. I don't want to leave it in the air.
Yes, I have a quick question.
Good,
again,
darling. Please ask me.
if I may.
Yes.
I do think that forgiveness plays a role in purification, but what if we cannot ask for forgiveness to certain
Christina, no,
people?
forgiveness is a huge role in our life. And the point I was making before, let me go into my details about it. The point I'm saying before was that if we have faith in God, a creator, then the part of the process of purification absolutely is based on forgiveness from God. Do you agree with that, if you were a Christian, Christina? So the main point I made then specifically, that's not our relationship with the Buddha. That was the only reason I said about forgiveness. Buddha is, of course, immensely compassionate and wise and would forgive you. There's no question. But that's not the issue here. So let's look now, put that aside. And now let's look at the necessity for us. If I've bad-mouthed you, if I've been mean to you and angry with you, it's so, first of all, in my own practice that evening, I must regret my anger because I don't want that suffering. That's a really important point, Christina. And often we confuse that with guilt. So then I'm feeling all guilty and twisted inside. So then I think I have to ring Christina and I'm begging Christina to forgive me. But I think we can misuse that because until I've genuinely regretted the anger and realized that I harmed myself, then I have compassion for Christina because I realized I harmed her. And a bonus is then to ask you to forgive me. But often we can misuse that forgiveness to make me feel, phew, I've got off the hook. But I have to regret my own suffering. And then the fourth step, there's no point in asking you to forgive me if I don't decide to change. That's the crucial extra piece. It's marvelous to ask for forgiveness and it's marvelous to give it. But in terms of me asking for forgiveness from you, I have to regret the anger because I'm sick of suffering. Then I have compassion for you. And at the end, I have to make a decision. I must stop this. I must stop bad-mouthing Christina. Then, because in other words, if I every time rely upon you to make me feel better, I'm misusing you. And that's often how we can misuse forgiveness to make us feel better. Are you seeing my point, Christina?
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
necessary. It's very humble to ask. But the other thing is very interesting, Christina. What if you don't forgive me? Then the trouble is, if we think forgiveness is the only thing that purifies us, then I am shattered and I feel I will never change. But that's why even if you don't forgive me, by my own regret, I purify myself, and my real compassion for you and my vowing not to do it again, I clean up my part completely. But if I rely upon you to make me feel better, and then if you don't give me forgiveness, it's devastating. So it's a really important point. It has to be the internal one as well. You get my point, Christina?
Yes. Yes.
And that's why my friends in prison who say kill people, the feel I'm hopeless, I'm no good, I'm evil, I'll go to hell for eternity. And then they heard about this approach that you have to forgive yourself. Regret is like forgiving yourself because you don't want suffering. Then you forgive, then you have compassion for the other. Then you decide to change. You can't bring the person back to life, that's for sure. But you can purify yourself. That's the powerful point, I think. And it's not guilt. It's a very powerful concept. you understand, darling? Yeah, good. Thank you, Christine. That's a really good point. Well, I've run out of voice. Maybe I'll have to finish. I've got no voice left. So Anne or Marius, is that enough, do you think? Marius, what do you think? Marius, it'd be good to see. You always show only your forehead, Marius. It'd be nice to see your whole face. Put your screen down. So I can see you, darling.
Wonderful teaching.
Oh, he's going to sit up. Okay, good.
We thank you so much.
Can't hear you very well, Marius.
We thank you so much for your teachings.
Good.
And we will be very happy to have you again.
Of course, as much as you like. You ask me. I'm happy.
Yes. And next time maybe some more, I don't know, in-depth for this topic.
Well, maybe we can do a series, because you can't fit everything in one class. We can do a series of days over a month or something and have it just once a week or something, whatever you like. You work it out with Anne, whatever you both like. I'm very happy to help. Very happy. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So we think here we've been this 3 hours, as many moments as there have been, is as many seeds we have all planted. Remember that. Nothing has gone astray. So we think how marvelous. We're going to nourish these seeds in our mind with our own effort, our wish to practice, our wish to develop our own marvelous potential, our own wish to practice compassion, to help others, so we can be, do as we motivated to eventually become this amazing enlightened being, no matter how long it takes, so we really can be a benefit to others. Kewadi nyudo dag lama sange drubgyone drowa chikyang marupa deyi sala gapa shok. And then may compassion, this amazing bodhicitta, this amazing aspiration to never give up helping others, which is based on everything we talked about today. May it grow and grow in the hearts of all. Jangchob semchog rinpoche ma ke panam ke gyuchig ke panyampa me payang gong ne gong du pa shok. Thank you, everybody. So kind. Thank you, everybody. Every single one of you. Thank you so much. Much love to all of you.
Thank you.
Never give up.
Thank you very much.
Never give up.
Thank you.
Never give up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Venerable.
Thank you.